Hi and welcome. This is Angela, and today I'm sharing on the dance with the veil between this world and the other worlds. So for some of you, you may be feeling that things are a bit different after last week, January 15. I mentioned during the video that there was a special day where some of us were connecting through meditation online to bring humanity to a new energy. And this has been done before, but this day it hasn't been done for something like thousands of years. It was a quite significant day. So you may not have felt anything. Did you feel anything? Did you join the meditation? Send me a message if you did. I'd like to know if you experienced anything or if you noticed anything. Or what have you noticed since January 15, if anything or nothing? What we noticed in my immediate community was a loss of a dear loved one, that a lot of us are still reeling from that passing. So today, I'm still experiencing that tenderness of this life and what's beyond it, that very vulnerable space where things look normal, but they're not. And I'm thinking about people who've lost this person as well, how they're going to continue through their life. And that's just one person that's lost, or a few people that have lost some loved ones. So for many of us, when we go through a loss of a dear person, you go through this very special time where this body, this time seems not quite what it was, not quite that physical reality that you thought it was. And certainly through death, we start to meet that. We start to meet that this physical world, this physical body is really not everything that we feel it is or think it is. And that's what I want to explore in the dance today, how it's helped me work with the physical world, go beyond the physical world, and look at that tenuous veil in between this physical world and what's beyond the physical. I know a good friend of mine calls it the unseen from Colourful Foresight. For me, it's not just the unseen, but it's the unexperienced. It's the part of us that we don't focus on because we're too scared of it. And it's the part of us that we don't look at because perhaps it's also not experienced in our bodies. We are very much dominated in our bodies by our nervous system, our physical lives, our routines, our conditioning from when we grow up. So in the World Dance Healing class that I'm starting February 1st at Amira's Palace in Marrickville, what we're creating is that new space where you can explore what's unexperienced and where you might feel you've got old ways of connecting to yourself. I'm really interested in what are the new ways of connecting to yourself that are not about looking at how you might be broken, but actually just something you haven't experienced in your body, or perhaps you've wanted to experience and you want to call it in. I used to do this a lot with my relationship coaching. When we wanted to have love in our lives, we used to visualize what that would feel like. And we got to the conundrum that when you haven't experienced love, how do you know what it feels like? And this is where we can get into the unseen. This is where we get into what I call that dance with the veil between what we know, what we feel, what we sense, what we touch, and what's unexperienced, what's beyond that. Also, what I'm discovering through the Dance for Joy classes and what I uncovered in the Sufi movement was that there are subtle senses in the body that now, with this new age, with the new energies coming in, we're able to feel them more quickly. We did always feel them, but we weren't as sensitive to them. And some of you may know people now that are highly sensitive or have high capacity for their hearing abilities. These are the new senses that we're starting to activate collectively. We're also experiencing increased negative outcomes of being too sensitive, of being overindulgent in our senses. So people are running away from connection, or they're running away from perhaps experiencing the inner self, which is quite normal if you look at our world. For a couple of 100 years, people were too busy in previous centuries. They were working, so they may not have had the luxury of being able to connect and feel and sense themselves. However, in some cultures, such as India, they had time. They made time because their culture was cultivated by listening to the subtle senses. And so in the World Dance Healing class, all we're doing is creating a space for you to begin to feel those subtle senses. What lies between this physical body and this enormous other unknown sense of the self? We have spent a long time in our society trying to get the luxury of time to feel ourselves in the modern world. However, the ancients made time, or indigenous cultures built their culture around feeling the subtle moment, the moment itself. And in the Sufi movement, Adnan used to say, in the moment was the dance. That was when the universe unfolds. So if you know anything or nothing about Sufis, you may have seen a whirling dervish, but the Sufis actually look at the breath, and beyond the breath, they look at the shape of the movement of the breath. So a lot of the movements may be mimicking ripples of motion in the moment, which then they connect to some of the calligraphy and the writing of ancient text, the shape of the art and the form of the sacred flower of life and how it opens and unfurls is also like the areolae of the lungs. So there's this interconnected between all expression of the human creative spirit, whether it's dance or writing or poetry or chanting or singing, or our relationship to moving in the nature or the shapes of nature itself, and from extension the shapes of the universe, which is what forms our planet and holds our planet. And in all the art that's come from the Sufi traditions, it's the interconnectedness of every moment to every expression. And it can be experienced in just one moment. So yes, you can have the movements of the Sufi movement and dance, but actually it's a feeling. It's all about feeling what's in that moment. And for me, after January 15 last week, there's been a lot to experience in the moment, too much. And I feel like that's what's happening for us globally. There's actually too much going on for us to feel, for us to absorb. And we're having our nervous systems having a reaction to that. Some of us go into addiction or distraction. Some of us go into avoidance or silence. Some of us go into anxiety or overwhelm, and they're all natural responses. So today I want to just share some simple techniques. I've got two things to share. One just came to me now as I was describing the Sufi movement. And a second one is what the World Dance Healing will be sharing more. So I wanted to give you a little taste of that. But World Dance Healing is my creation. It's what I've discovered from all these different world dances, and being from Australia and a different ethnic background in Australia, and then trying to relate to a different culture through dance. I discovered I really don't know what I'm doing most of the time. So I lived in this constant state of kind of making things up as I went. And I did that in theatre, I did that in performance. But learning a cultural dance, you feel like a bit of a dum-dum because you don't know what you're doing, and you're sort of taking on somebody else's upbringing, somebody else's rhythm, somebody else's feeling. And you might be doing it kind of clumsily or wrong or just not getting it right. And I discovered in that once you strip away the concern about getting it wrong and making mistakes, you can actually accidentally discover the dance. And we used to explore this with Annette Luce in Sydney as well. Her obsession was what makes a beginner who's never been able to dance be able to dance. And we had many moments with Annette where we thought we couldn't do a movement, but then we could. We dropped into it. We were obsessed with how to find the essence of movement and just being in that movement. So for me, going to all the different world dance experiences, because some of them were just in a nightclub or at a party or not just classes, but I just fell into these experiences one after the other after the other. I found that I basically was allowing myself to go beyond the mind and into that moment. And through all of the different techniques, there was always this lovely sense of not knowing what to do. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. And unfortunately, our society today hasn't got a very playful nature to allow us to be like that. I think we always did it as kids, but then we got serious and we went to school and we had to get marks and then we had to get work and then we had to be somebody or something. And I think coming back to that veil between what's real and what's not real, we put a lot of focus in our lives from the time we start school to becoming something instead of actually just being or exploring. I don't know what this is. Let me experience it. Let me feel it. And we lose that fun of not knowing what to do. And we start to be so self-conscious. And that, my friends, of having to get it right and that feeling of having to be a certain way, that's the old energy. That's the seeing. That's what we've been doing for thousands of years. We've had a certain consciousness where this is the way it was supposed to be. And that's not stabilizing anymore on our planet. It's shifting. So in the World Dance Healing, what we'll be doing is allowing you to just play and experience what could be a new way of relating to yourself in a way that's fun and joyful and allows you to feel without having to get it right. And I use certain exercises as well, like one I'll share shortly. So let's just do a movement that came to me as I was talking now about the Sufi movement, because I wanted to share the beauty of all of these forms when they bring us back to what I call a wave or a ripple. And it's what I'm discovering now with the new energies that are coming on the earth. There's a lot of feelings that may be non-verbal that are moving through us. And also when I experience emotions in the dance, they come as a wave or of a feeling of a ripple. So just moving in that manner, feeling if you're seated, you can do it a little bit easier maybe than standing, but you can also try it standing, where you're just allowing yourself to feel that movement of your breath as a wave versus trying to do a breath. So just imagine and feel that motion where you're just taking the breath as if it's a movement. And if there are emotions or feelings that are overwhelming right now, one of the ancient movements that we've done, which also comes from childhood, is a slight rocking movement. So you can try that as well. It's like a bit of a rock, and you're just feeling that rock carry you like a wave forward and back. And for some of us, you can speed it up. And for some of us, it might be really like a slowing down. It will just depend on how you're feeling in the moment. And if you are watching, you might see the hands as well can start to mimic the movement. So it's just allowing yourself to feel what might be felt like a wave in the moment. And I'm bringing my focus now to the hands, just to allow myself to feel the connection of the hands, feeling that wave of the movement that matches the in-breath and the out-breath. So it's like the hands are sort of copying or mapping how that breath moves in and out. And if I could use this movement alone to describe how I feel that veil between this world and the others, sometimes when I'm actually experiencing space, what happens is I feel like a slight vibration or wave of energy is being rippled through my physical form. And it can be the space around my body as well. But it's like it's not physically here 100%. It's like the boundary of my skin starts to dissolve and fold. And that's definitely one of the things that I've started to experience more since January 15, where the boundary of my physical form isn't quite as physical as it was. Some of you may be experiencing that differently. You might actually sense a vibration in the body, or you might get a different feeling about the air quality around. You might hear. These are the subtle senses of the body, the sound, the auditory, and for me, definitely touch. I'm not sure about taste and smell, but some of us may be also more relating to smell and taste differently as well. These are the vibrations that are now, some of us will be increasing our ability to sense and feel things in the physical world with more subtlety. So then the other movement I wanted to share with you today is a feeling of how to take that sense of the moment when everything seems so overwhelming, or when you want to feel that you're more than just very dense or in this physical body. What I do a lot is just play with this moment. And it can be as simple as when you're walking down the street and you literally are testing yourself in an environment that may feel like your everyday environment. You're just walking down the street like you do every day. This is my challenge for you, or playful way of exploring the moment. You could be walking down a road that you've walked 100 times. So what you can do is, as you're walking, you start to see how the movement of your steps actually can start to feel like you're experiencing that very moment. And so what we do in the dance class is we do this at the beginning of class. We start walking around the room and we start to change that pace, and we start to feel it very, very fast, and then we slow it down, and then we take it into another feeling. So if you're walking down the street and you want to experience the moment, what is it that you want to feel? Maybe you just want to feel that step as if it's the first step that you've had in the day, where you're really just exploring the space of the street. Maybe you're just exploring how your feet touch the floor again after you take one foot off the floor. There's no limit with how you can explore that moment as you're walking down the street. And it's a strategy I've used innumerable times in our dance workshops, because we're really starting to really shut down how we operate in our everyday life, which, as we move through these rapid changes that are happening now, we tend to go into robotic and repetitive tasks, and we cut ourselves off. And I'm inviting you, you can come to the World Dance Healing class, but I'm inviting you in your everyday to resist the temptations of just cutting off your body or going into the routine ways of being with your body. We're in a new opportunity now with all the distractions around us to reconnect and just feel. It's not hard. The world will tell you it's hard, or they'll try to distract you. But these are the times where, ironically, I've found when I'm the most resistant, that my body will just surrender very quickly to being heard or listened to. When I slow down my steps down the street and I just feel the bottom of my foot flapping into the ground and allow that foot to feel that contact. And then I sense how each foot might be connecting to the ground. And the other thing is, when I'm walking sometimes, because it's such an ingrained habit, is to notice as you're walking, which you might do at your normal pace so people don't think you're crazy, you just start to notice what is that space between you walking down that street and another living thing. You might be isolated in a park, so pick a bird or a tree. So feel as you're walking how you can feel the space between you and another living being, a person, a tree, a rock, a feature of that environment. And it's a lovely way to just feel the space between you. And you're not doing anything, you're not asking for anything to come in, but you're just allowing yourself to feel that connectivity there between you and another living thing. So those are a couple of simple techniques that you can start to play with in the new energy. They don't have to be dramatic and large. They can be really subtle. And we can start opening up the subtle senses of the body. I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about the new energy. People are talking about this age of Aquarius for decades. I'm basically like experiencing it in my body. And I like to share these experiences because, well, I've always been a bit different, but I haven't spoken about how I experience the differences of the physical body and my body feeling like it's not physical anymore, the non-physical layers coming in. And for me, it's not a thing that I experience in the chakras. It's something that I actually experience in a sensory level. So I'll be sharing how some of that's moving through my body, but also how with the dance we can have simple ways to connect that, for me, simple is memorable. And with my current brain, when I get too wordy or too abstract or too concept, I'm not actually able to drop into the senses. And I'm next Monday going to be sharing more about world dance healing and some of those strategies that we're building in the class. And of course, if you're in Marrickville, if you're in Sydney, come and join us at Amira's Palace on Thursdays. 6:30 will be the Sufi movement. We'll be doing some of the Middle Eastern and Eastern music and feeling those different rhythms and sensory awakening. And in World Dance Healing, we're going to be playing more with the people who show up and how you want to connect to this new sense of yourself with all of those lovely rhythms of world dance. So thank you for watching, and I wish you another way of feeling into this new time that we're moving into. And I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Let me know how you're going and what more you would like to hear about in the weekly lives that I'm doing as well. Thanks for watching.